to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. And I'm glad you all are here. Happy holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Love it all. Love it all. So I'm glad you all are here. This week on the podcast, I'm going to welcome a gentleman that I encountered, like many of my guests, on Instagram, because that's where I do most of my conversing is Instagram. And I don't talk to strangers out in public anymore. But I will talk to strangers on Instagram all the time, and then I have them on the podcast, and we have a good time. So I want to welcome to the show Mr. Joe Donovan. And Joe and I, we were going back and forth through Messenger or through Instagram DMs for a minute, and he was like, "Hey, man, let's get together, let's talk." Like let's get your story. So, welcome to the show, Joe. How you feeling, man? And thank you for doing this.
I'm feeling pretty good. Thank you for having me. Little sore. I'm recently just getting over 2 fractures in my spine. Happened at work, not at Jiu Jitsu. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to roll for a little while. I've just been going to watch, and man, is that hard sitting out on the sidelines. But
Oh yeah.
I still love going because that is a fantastic community that I've found there, and it's where I want to spend all my time, even if I can't roll. So
Good. So how long have you been sideline so far?
I'm on about week 3 now.
All right. Well, hopefully, with that type of injury, it could take some time to, slowly get back, but hopefully, you get back sooner rather than later. It's backs get tricky, vertebrae, all that. My wife had a bulging disc, and she didn't know what was going on. And once they figured it out, she was all types of jacked up. So, hopefully, your recovery goes well and you can get back out there on the mats because, though, going to the gym and watching and taking notes and everything, it's helpful. Nothing beats getting out there and actually being on the mats.
Right.
So how did you get into jiu-jitsu? Like, did you have any prior martial arts experience, or did you just one day was like, you know what, I need to make a change, I want to do something different, let's go do crazy stuff with people and fight?
Yeah. So fighting has always been something that I've really enjoyed. My dad was a Goju-Ryu instructor, and he did that for about 25 years. And I did Goju-Ryu karate for a couple years with my brother until he had a really bad accident, and now he's had his hips replaced several times, and a lot of stuff that makes it difficult for him to do it. And he's in his mid 60s now. So, but me and my brother used to always watch the old UFC tapes, and then we had the old ones recorded, and we thought seeing Hoist out there was the coolest thing because he was like the David against Goliath and winning. And we would see, rewind him and be like, what's he doing? How do I do that? Let's go, watch these fights and then go try this out in the front yard, kind of self-taught type thing. But then we had another instructor, and he did a little bit of jujitsu and a little bit of karate. But then he moved away, and for a long time, there wasn't anything like that. I'm from a really small mountain town in New Hampshire. So there was one gym that did anything similar for an hour and a half, and then that went away. But as soon as a boxing gym came into our town, I was like 13 and I started boxing. And again, I really loved that. The feeling of it was just something I've really, really enjoyed. And then that ended up kind of going south. The guy that ran it got in all sorts of trouble, and it was just kind of like a dream come true when it happened. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because it is too good to be true. So I've always wanted to find something like that because wrestling or boxing, or especially when it's in a friendly setting, it's to me it's the purest form of competition because you can't just pass the ball to somebody on your team who's good. You just have to rely on yourself, and it brings back this like sense of childlike joy. It reminds me of when I was little and me and my brother would do it with my dad. So um, my brother was getting married, and we went out to a restaurant, and I heard a guy down the couple tables away talking to, I assume it must have been his girlfriend or something, about jujitsu, and he wouldn't stop talking about it, and you could tell it was bothering her. And I overheard it, and I was like, "Jujitsu, where?" And he's like, "Oh, right in town. It's like 15 minutes from here." I was like, "Awesome. When's your next practice?" And he said, "Tomorrow at 1 o'clock." And I was like, "I'll be there." And ever since then, I've just been going 4 days a week, and I couldn't be happier with the people there and the atmosphere. It's the best bunch of people I've met.
Good, good. It. I'm glad you mentioned that one part about other team sports and jiu-jitsu and combat sports being a purest form of competition, because that's always a thing when it comes to team sports. You'll hear like football, for instance. You win, Tom Brady, for instance, 6 Super Bowl titles. Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowl titles. Seven, I'm sorry, seven. But you don't ever hear them talk about, you know, the receiver or, the locker room leaders or the defensive leaders and stuff like that being the champions. You hear it's always isolated to one guy who's passing the ball off to somebody else who's doing more stuff. Or in basketball, you got your point guard who's dishing the ball off and kind of commanding the court. Yes, they are the leaders, but you still have other people, kind of, carrying a lot of the load. And sometimes you can just be a guy on a team. Like, yes, you still have to have skill to get out
Right.
there, but
You can win a Super Bowl and be the second string quarterback that never played.
yeah, I mean, like, I'm here in the, Washington D.C., Baltimore area, and recently, and I don't want to turn this into a football podcast by any means, but well, for one of my other shows, my co-host, he always talks about quarterback they had with the Washington Commanders now. So they ended up picking up Carson Wentz, who was the quarterback for the Eagles. He got injured. They won a Super Bowl while he was injured. And it always becomes this discussion about how Carson Wentz is so bad. My buddy hates Carson Wentz. He's like, he's not a good quarterback. I'm like, well, he's a Super Bowl champ, though.
Right.
He was on the team. He has a ring. But that is how that game is played, though. That's how it goes with any of these sports. You can be a role player and still be a champion. Whereas in combat sports, though it is a team sport, you are the one out there on the mats, in the ring, in the cage, doing the work. And, where the team element comes in, the preparation, getting ready. But once you're out there, that's you and you alone as far as the physicality of it. But, yeah, you have your coaches, your teammates rooting you on and kind of guiding you. But yeah, combat sports, that's where it's at when it comes to like just the ideal of like who's better, because we can always have this argument about LeBron being the greatest in this era of basketball, Jordan being the greatest in his era, Kobe being the greatest in his era, but there's still a lot of really really good players that did their thing, and then a lot of role players that kind of wrote those coattails too. But when it comes to combat sports, we're like, look, you got out there, you're winning, you're getting medals, you're getting titles, you're getting belts. You did this. So when you said that, it just lit a fire in me because it's like, oh my God, like, yes, that's the perfect thing. Now I'm going to take this back to my other show and like, look, motherfucker, like, I was talking to a guest on Off the Mats and he said this and that fucking shit made perfect sense. Carson Wentz is a champion, though. I don't support Carson Wentz. I just like to give him shit.
So are
All
you
right.
like a full-time digital creator as a career, or?
Nope. I am not that talented. Trust me. I am just a guy that I forced come my way into it. Someone that I trained with asked me to run their Facebook page and website. I said, sure. Can I make an Instagram account? And they're like, okay, go ahead. So I did that. The Instagram blew up, and my goal was to surpass his Instagram account at the time. I think he had 11,000 or something. I was like, okay, my goal is to pass him. And then I did. And then he was like, well, look, you can just have it all. You can have the Facebook and the website, because he had his own other things anyway going. So he was like, just take these things. You made the Instagram work. It's yours. You earned it. I was like, okay, I'll take it. No, I just do all this stuff is purely to keep me from spiraling into depression and lose my mind. So
Yeah,
uh,
I was actually talking about that to somebody else recently. Kind of, I always say I'm wearing myself thin and doing too much at the same time. And I said, look, man, if I don't keep my mind busy, I'm one of the things is like I really like what I do for work, and I really like exercise and jujitsu and boxing when it was there. Like on my weekends when I wake up, I'll if the weather's nice, I'll you know get up and get on my bicycle and go for a 20-mile ride and
nice.
just kind of I need to be doing something productive because if not, if I'm not doing something productive, I get kind of, you know, my mind wanders into places and I feel like that's been an issue for why I've kind of lost so many people recently is they don't get themselves to a happy place and then they're stuck in their sad one and end up doing things to I mean we all do things to escape the
Sure.
reality that
Yeah.
we're in, right? So for us it's jujitsu or talking to strangers online. And some people it's, drugs and alcohol.
So up in New Hampshire, uh, like what's the jiu-jitsu scene like, up there? I know you said, I guess there's only one school like kind of in the general area that you're in.
Right. So there's the school that I go to is called Nomad Grappling Club, and it's a solo kind of thing. It's not like a chain or branch or anything. And
Sure.
then about 45 minutes away is the next closest one, and it's called I think it's called like the Lab or something, and that's in somewhere in Maine. I think it's Portland, and then 40 minutes in the opposite direction is another one, and that's called Tokyo Joe's. They do karate and jujitsu, but yeah, it's not very prominent. We didn't have wrestling in any of our schools, nothing like that. It's kind of finally making its way out into the woods here.
Well, I mean, the fact that, it sounds like you listed off what, three there. Um, you know, that in itself, I think is, big too. I have a friend that's in Vermont, and this was, I want to say 3 years ago. I think there was only one gym in Vermont that he was aware of, and even for him, he said that was like maybe 90 minutes away. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at least you're not
Yeah, I
Vermont.
got real lucky. This one is it's the only one nearby and it's real close. It's about 10 minutes from my house, so
Oh, nice.
that makes
Good,
it
good.
easy.
And how long have you been training there?
I've been training there about a year and a half.
Okay. All right. Good, good. And being there, I know with it kind of being light on the scene right now in New Hampshire, uh, like, are there any kind of competitions that come through, or
There
uh,
are. There one of our three of our team members, actually four, one of them was just in the youth division, competed recently at a Naga submission only, and two of the our blue belt. We only have two blue belts. Everyone else is a white belt, and one of them is the coach's son. He took silver, and then our other one of the other white belts that did the competition took bronze, and then our youth kid got silver. So they're doing pretty good.
Good, good. I mean, honestly, even though, like I said, we've only got three blue belts and everyone's white belts right now. I mean, that's how you grow, though.
Yeah,
Nobody starts off as a black belt, and that goes for gyms in itself. There are quite a few gyms that have started with like a blue belt instructor, or owner, and just grow from there. You start off with nothing but white belts, and then boom, you just start cranking out those blue belts, and those purple belts, earn them out there in competition. So you guys are on the rise.
yeah, we're definitely a young gym, but it's nice, especially when we're all kind of like still beginners. I think it would make it easy as a coaching standpoint too, because he doesn't have to do the more advanced stuff for this guy, and we're all on the same page, so we're learning at the same pace. So I think being a singular coach, that probably makes it easy on him too, just having the same skill level throughout. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, that definitely has to be a big relief because like you said, if you got these guys that are way more advanced over here, and then you have majority you know early learners, it could get tricky, almost to the point where it's like the fear of losing that student, because it's like, well, I'm not learning what I need to learn over here. Or you also have I saw this trick on YouTube, and you end up injuring somebody. So, but hey, like I said, growth. You guys are growing. You're on the rise, and I feel like even with jiu-jitsu still, I mean, jiu-jitsu's a relatively big thing now for the most part. I still feel like it's that sport that's still growing in many areas, especially in, like I said, my friend in Vermont, you all in New Hampshire. I mean, it's got its legs. It's moving, and before you know it, you guys are going to be, some of the heavy hitters out there too, and we'll be like, oh my god, that scene in New Hampshire, y'all. Like
yeah,
we gotta keep our eye on them now.
I mean, there's more of a demand for it than there is a supply, because as soon as I started, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be like 5 or 6 people, which it was. But I was, I found out when my brother was, asking me to be the best man at his wedding, and I overheard that kid just talking about it. And when I went there, he had only been there for about a week. There was 2 or 3 other guys, and every day we would have 1, 2, 3 new people that were like, "Hey, I just found out about this. I just found out about it." And then all of a sudden, we got a team of 20 something guys, and we're all, those are the diehard members. You get the people that come in for a trial class, and you know, some of them it might not be for them, and they decide not to. But we have a pretty solid group of people that go every day.
Good, good. And yeah, it's tough when you have, like you say, you get the guys who might hop in, and sure, it's probably not for them, but it's good to weed that out versus
Yeah,
having people that are there that don't really want to be there, and they're not good training partners. So that's how you really kind of find out who's in it to win it, and who's faking it. And when you have a smaller sample size or serving size, I think that is the best spot to find it, because you can get larger gyms where you'll have people that are just kind of there. And like we're talking about, the sports, ball sports, example, where it's like, okay, you got some guys that are kind of hiding in the shadows, but when you got like a smaller group, it's like everyone's there. You can see who's there, for it genuinely, and then who's not there. And usually
yeah.
those who aren't there, they tend to see themselves out. So with your injury, you said it happened at work.
Yeah.
Uh, they prior to that though, had you had any complications or injuries on the mats, that might have sidelined you or
No,
even contributed?
I never got hurt on the mats. Um, we are thankfully we don't have any there. I know the stereotype is the spazzy white belts. Everyone there kind of has learned really quickly that, wow, this is a really uncomfortable position to be in an arm bar. So no one's, you know, jumping to a submission or snapping something. Um, and part of the mantra, I guess, of our gym called Nomad is a compass, and it's like chaos, control, capability, and confidence, and in the middle is composure. So if you can't if you can't control someone to be able to get a gentle submission, then your technique isn't right. So you should be able to take your time and get it without having to like muscle into it. So
Sure.
we've really stressed technique over anything else, and that has kept a lot of us injury free and also made you a better grappler, and to the point where like I'm kind of a smaller guy, especially for my gym. I'm 5'8" and 150 pounds, but even when we go live, there's times when I don't feel like I'm out strengthened because you can get the right positioning, and that takes away a lot of the power that the actual physical strength has. And again, they're all chill people. Like if I'm going up against one of the guys that's like 220, he's not gonna just like rip a Kimura every 2 seconds because he wants to learn the other ones too. And no one wants to be that guy that like hurts somebody. So
Very true.
they're all they're all super cool, and um it feels like a brotherhood to be there because and that was my big draw to it at first was that's me and my brother used to do it together all the time. And that is why I get so much joy from it because it brings back this like childlike sense of wonderment when I'm wrestling or fighting. And it sounds weird, but it just reminds me of those times. So and we all love it. It's like a group of kids. Like at we all we're all there for each other. We have cookouts and we all show up to each other's birthday parties and weddings and uh you know then it feels more than like a place you go to like train. It feels like I met some really good lifelong people there. It's like therapy with strangling. That's
I
how it feels.
definitely get that for sure. Yeah, I always think about jujitsu as just that, just therapy. I know I've put up a post every so often that says jujitsu is my therapy. And, you'll see people talking about lifting weights, it's their therapy. Running is their therapy. And you'll get the occasional group of people that jump in and say, no, therapy is therapy, blah, blah, blah. You can't have anything that's not talking to a therapist that's not therapy. And it's like, look, man, sometimes you know, it's not one size fits all. And
Right.
jiu-jitsu can be one of those things that fits into that mode to service therapy, whether it be uh um fellowship, having your teammates and having your cookouts, going to birthday parties and weddings and things like that, celebrating together, being supportive as a team, going to competitions. That goes a long way because I mean jiu-jitsu, I think for a lot of people at times replaces you know the lack of family for some, you know.
Mm,
So, and I know there are people who also hate the whole term, oh, we're like a family here because it is a business. Yes, for the gym, it's a business, but you still have people that you train with, that you're learning with, that you're going to battle with, that you form this brotherhood with this, familyhood with that, you can say it's like a family. It's just that, on the bigger
Yeah,
scale of it, yes, it is a business. It's a business though that you found a family. I mean, I
it
don't know.
definitely is. And like my coach, he didn't do it as a business. He moved up here with his family and wanted a place to train, and like me found that they're either an hour in this direction or an hour in that direction. And he had recently got his brown belt, so he's like, you know what, why don't I just start one? So at first they were doing it in his garage at his house, and it wasn't really like a sign up thing. It was, you know, just a group of guys that like to grapple, and one of them was actually a police officer and now a detective in town, and he taught um like the hand to hand portion for the police training. And he was like, well, let me learn jujitsu because that makes a lot of sense. And then as the word grew and it kind of spread, that's when he said, okay, now I need to start. This is has the potential as a business. Um, and if we're gonna have more than just my five friends in here, we're probably gonna have to have people signing waivers. And that was when we were renting space for another gym. And then the the popularity and the class size got so big that now we're actually going to be moving into a different part of the building that is just ours.
Okay, good, good.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, growth. You all are
Yeah.
slowly but surely growing, and that's the thing too. When you have a product that's good and people are really gaining from it, it can't be stopped. You know, people can feel how they want to feel about jujitsu, and I'm speaking of people who don't train. I know so many people who don't train who have such negative things to say about martial arts. Period. But at the end of the day, if people are gaining from this, again, whether it be fellowship, whether it be self defense, whether it just be, just mental health, just, this is something that, you shouldn't try to take from someone else or try to, you know, discourage others from doing it. So I'm glad that, in your gym, this is growing and the community is definitely gaining from it. So good.
Yeah. We all really like the philosophy that my coach came up with the 4 points of the compass and the center being composure, because I feel like if you can be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, it's because you have the capability to be confident, to be comfortable in that uncomfortable position. And a lot of it like translates to just outside life for me, I think. But
Sure.
um I wanted to circle back to the thing about jujitsu being therapy. It really is. Like endorphins are released when you're exercising, and that makes you feel good. And I had been through a hell of a year, man. My former captain of my lacrosse team, who was like a mentor to me, he passed away with a genetic disease a couple years ago. He was only 27 years old. And
Wow.
then about 4 months ago, my best friend who I used to live with um, passed away about a month after I went to hold his newborn baby girl. That took a hell of a toll on me. And I didn't have a lot of people that I could count on or talk to in high school or in general, because I've struggled a lot financially growing up, and especially with my dad's injuries, my my mom not making a whole lot of money, and it was just a lot of I was kind of an angry, ornery kid because of the situation I was in, and because of that, I wasn't the most personable and didn't build a lot of lifelong friendships except for kids that were in a similar position to me.
Sure.
And my therapy was physical fitness. I took all the anger that I was feeling about being broke or being hungry and put that fuel to, you know, lacrosse and boxing and karate and the things that, I felt like if I'm going to have this feeling and I need to escape this feeling, I want it to be the healthiest way possible. And unfortunately, a lot of them chose a different path. But one of the people that kind of brought me out of my shell was a girl that I went to school with, and we had the same birthday together. And she was just an absolute sweetheart. And she said, you actually are a really nice person on the inside. I know you have a lot of bad things that are happening to you, but you can let go of those and open up, and why don't you come to my birthday party and I'll, get you some friends because we have the same birthday. And she changed my outlook on people a whole lot. But the terrible thing is she ended up getting shot in the head by her boyfriend last year. So everything that I had that was kind of humanizing me was being taken away bit by bit. And then just last month, another one of my friends we used to spend every day together, um, he was struggling with sobriety, and we knew it, but we would take him to the like the peer support group so we could do NA meetings, and we would play basketball with them and just do all the things that we could to give him a healthy outlet. And for a while he was doing really well. He had his own business, and then I he passed away like last month from a like relapse, and I was just like devastated, man. There's so much loss to deal with in such a short amount of time. But that's why I felt like jujitsu was like a family, because all these things that were happening to me off the mats, I still wanted to go there because that was a supportive, kind, loving group. And my coach would take me to go to church with them, which I'm not even religious, but it just felt nice to be around other people that cared. And like the jujitsu being a therapy thing, I don't really need any answers. I just need someone to care. And then I feel like I can figure it out from there. Once I have the feeling that somebody else cares, that gives me the fire that I need to find my own answer. So that's why I like you, and I saw your posts about the positivity and all this stuff about jujitsu, and I didn't have anyone left to talk to. So I said, "Oh, like you said, I wouldn't go talk to people in the supermarket, but some stranger on the internet, sure, I'll tell them." And then it ended up being one of the coolest things ever.
Well, I mean, just hear your story here, and just it's like, I mean, you're going through the ringer. Just but for all that you're going through, and you're handling it, from what I can see, from what I can tell, you're like, look, I see these things happening around me. I can't become part of that either. So having, again, this group to turn to, and just also, having the awareness, to know, like, look, I had, you're an ornery kid. It's like,
Yeah.
what can I do? Like I always feel like, and I see this a lot online, and it gets tricky because I mean we are in a digital world, so we're going to see most of our stuff online because people are going to say more stuff negatively online than they are going to say in person. That's a fact.
Hmm.
But, we'll see things and hear things online where it's like, you as a male, it's like, look, man, like you said, just knowing somebody cares, that's huge. Meanwhile, we'll be told, well, no, you know, you got to tough it out and fight through it. And there is something to that as well. I'm not saying that, people can't just man up, I guess. But more often than not, we need a support group as people, as humans. I think also more so as dudes, because, you know, there are times where, the ideal is like, okay, well, you're having this problem, your best friend, died, go out and get drunk, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's how I handled it when my best friend died.
Yeah, it was
I,
definitely a long road. There was quite a bit of that, but I just I lost my license like last year. I have it back now, but again, that was kind of everyone needs an escape, and
yeah,
when my escape was fitness for the longest amount of time, and then I was losing all these people. Some of them were through different reasons, but a lot of them were from their personal health choices, and
sure.
I kind of and I've been painfully self-aware because it wasn't just my outside friends, but there was people in my family who also had these issues, and I kind of looked in the mirror and I said, "Can't be me, won't be me, not going to be me."
Good.
And
Good.
I but I definitely did have a little bit of an issue about drinking for a while. It was kind of even at work, my boss and stuff will go have a beer after a shift, and that to me kind of opens up the floodgates. It's
Mm,
one's not enough, or one's too many, and a million's not enough when it comes to things like that. So
yeah,
I kind of had to shut it out, and the only way I could you know stay distracted without something hindering my state of consciousness was keeping myself busy. So I said, what are things that I like to do? What are things that I actually like? And that was fighting and lacrosse. So I found the Jiu Jitsu gym, thank God, and I started coaching youth lacrosse. And to me, that gave me something I look forward to throughout the week and something that I have a moral obligation to do. Like I have to keep my shit together if I'm gonna be the one leading another group of impressionable young minds. So
very true.
it I had to keep myself busy with things that I liked to get off the track that I had seen a lot of people go down. And blessed are the people at jiu-jitsu, and just very thankful for the gym showing up, because that has really helped me keep my sanity and like my shit together when all these terrible things are happening around me.
Sure. Absolutely. And, you know, my hat goes off to you for, having that self awareness, and also just being, bold enough to go against the grain, because it's real easy for, anyone to just say, you know what, this is my environment. I may as well just cater into it, and, be what it wants me to be. Um, when it comes to drinking, that's tough, you know, to get around. I I have a beer review podcast now, and the funny thing about it is, like, I don't ever preach sobriety to anyone by any means, but when I got in trouble with drinking, I ended up getting a DUI. The funny thing about the DUI, and it's not funny, but no DUI is ever funny. But the ironic thing is, I wasn't driving when I got the DUI.
You're
Um,
just sitting in
cop,
the car with the keys nearby.
so I was driving, but so we went in to get subs at a local sub shop. And there was a cop on the parking lot. And he ran a check on my tags. My tags were suspended. I was not aware of that. So as we get back into the car, we pull off, and lights go right on. So, oh shit. License, registration, pull everything out. Well, first he goes, "You know why I pulled you over?" And I honestly was like, "I absolutely have no idea." It's like a license registration, please. So I hand over, my info. It's like I pulled you over because your tags are suspended, and it looks like your license is as well. I was like, "That's news to me." Have you been drinking tonight? And there's no way you could not tell I was drinking just by the smell coming out of that car. Um, but after getting the DUI, I kind of went through this thing of wanting to prove a point that I'm not an alcoholic. Because once they make you go to AA, that's all you keep hearing from everyone is that you're an alcoholic. You have a drinking problem. You can't have alcohol.
Right.
And for me, it was important to prove that no, I don't have a drinking problem. I can actually drink comfortably without overdoing it. At that time, again, I lost both my best friends in a very short amount of time. And I was drinking to numb myself
Yeah.
and get away from the feelings of just being miserable. When meanwhile, the alcohol was actually making me more miserable. But after getting a DUI and going to AA, I would go out to the bar with my friends and not drink, or I go there and have one beer just to
Right.
make a point that I can do that. And that's kind of the thing with this beer podcast right now is my co-host, he brings 3 beers and we split the 3 beers. So ultimately a beer and a half between the two of us over a 2 hour period of recording a podcast. And, you know, and usually his brother who doesn't drink comes. So his brother actually is his transportation. We record here at my home. So there is kind of that safety net too. It's like, oh, well, if I want to get smashed, I will get smashed, and I can just lay right here on my couch in the basement, or I can crawl upstairs. But
Yeah.
I don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had my moments where I'll have a couple mugs of wine, you know, but it's not the belligerent like raging alcoholic I used to be, where it was like,
Yeah. I think for me it's like before I started having like people around me dropping like flies, um, I could have 1 or 2 beers and be like, yeah, my stomach's kind of full. I don't really feel like having any more. And then when, especially because the people that I lost were really the only ones that I could talk comfortably about or knew were gonna care or would message me without me messaging them first just to check in. And once I didn't have that around, I was just kind of like, all right, well, I'm gonna numb myself, like you said. And then it wasn't until I had the other things like the jujitsu and the coaching that made me feel like I don't need to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm in no way, shape, or form preaching like stone cold sobriety, but I do think responsibility, absolutely. Like if I
yes,
know I'm going to be going somewhere that's serving alcohol and I'm planning on having one, I'll we have taxis. I can get a ride from somebody or if it's close enough, I'll ride my bike or something, which still technically is illegal. But at least if I crash my bike, I'm the only one getting hurt.
true, true.
So, but the DUI that I got was actually pretty funny, even though they're not funny. But it was the same deal where I was planning on doing everything very responsibly. I got a taxi there, got a taxi from the other place, and rode with a DD somewhere else. And till the end of the night, I'm back at this girl's house, and we start kissing and stuff. And then her phone rings, and she says, "Oh, my fiance is on his way home from the airport." And I was like, "You're what now? You didn't tell me that. Like, why the hell do you have me over here if you are engaged to be married?" And she was like, "Yeah, you got to go." And I was like, "Sick, dude. At this point, it's 1:30. The taxis in my very small town stop at 1." So I was like, I've seen enough investigation discovery where like someone's gonna come home like 90% of the time that the murder happens, it's because of adultery. So I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. And my grandmother lived about 10 minutes up the road. Again, country back roads, no lights, nobody's around. So I was like, it should be okay. I get pulled over, and the officer says to me, like, "Sir, have you been drinking?" And I just put my hands out the window, and I was like, "Dude, I know I messed up. Just get me out of here." And that
Yeah.
was another one of those character defining moments where I was like, "What the hell am I doing, man? Who am I around? Who are these people?"
Yeah. It, I think after the stint in AA and kind of trying to prove a point, you know, I shortly thereafter found jujitsu, and Friday nights, if anything, would be the one night I would drink. I remember I could only train on Saturdays at that time, and I remember going into class. I want to say it might have been my third class, somewhere in the early before like 1 through 5, somewhere in there. I remember going in not hungover, but I had been drinking the night before. I felt horrible, and I remember thinking to myself, under the concept of a team, unit here, I don't want to be a bad teammate coming in drunk. Now, you know, not that people are coming in drinking, drunk from the night before. It's like I feel like, if anything, I may not have a whole lot to offer in terms of a lot of things at that time, especially at the very least, I could be a sober training partner, an aware training partner. And jujitsu kind of helped me paint, that moving forward. It was like, what kind of a teammate do I want to be? What kind of a friend do I want to be to these competitors, that I roll with, that I train with, and watch go out there and compete. So, you know, kind of again trying to be careful of not trying to say, hey, I'm preaching sobriety. No, not by any means, but yes, responsibility for sure. And also just, when it comes to being a part of a group and saying, hey, this is my team. These are my brothers and sisters. You want to make sure that, hey, you're the responsible one, because not everybody's going to be the responsible one. So someone's got to pick it up and do it. And for me, I was like, okay, let me be that guy. I want to be the guy that at least shows up. Hey, you're getting ready for a competition. I'll work with you. I'll train with you, and do whatever you need. And in order to do that, I have to be at least Saturday morning class be sober. I mean, maybe Saturday night go out and knock a few back, and then wake up Sunday morning a little toasted. But at the very least, like, in terms of being with your teammates and stuff, I always want to make sure that I was straightforward, and then becoming a dad also helped, because I didn't like the idea of being drunk around my kid. It's like, I'm relatively responsible, but the idea of, like, hey, if I've been drinking and my daughter wants to play shoots and ladders, and I can't count properly because I've been drinking or something, and it'd be embarrassing for my kids to say, Dad, what's that smell?
Yeah.
It's like, or like, like, you're counting wrong again, Dad. It's like, I feel like at that point you got to be pretty fucking drunk, I would imagine, for you. And just the things that you've gone through, especially with losing friends. Had you spoken to any of the friends about training, that kind of had relapses or anything? Because sometimes you feel like that might be, and it's, again, jiu-jitsu is not always the answer for everyone, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's a start.
Well, um, no, one of them was he was also a dad, young dad, 25, 4 kids. So guy had absolutely no free time. Was a welder, so long hours, long days. But my other friend, he he had an apartment in Dover, which is one of the towns that also has a gym about 40 minutes away, and he expressed interest in joining it. And I told him, do it, dude. I do it. It's a lot of fun. And he's like, well, I'm kind of nervous about going there and not knowing what I'm doing. And I was like, dude, that's the whole point. Like, they're not going to shove you in there with somebody that's, you know, much better than you, and they're going to hurt you. Like, you're there to learn. They're gonna take you at whatever level you're at and help you get forward. And I think, but I think the problem is that it's like when you have something like that, that's it's like having an itch that you can't scratch and you just forget about. But as soon as you're reminded of it, you're like, oh yeah, I need to scratch that itch. So um, I don't know. He wanted to do it, and I told him he should, and I guess he never made up his mind about going. But
Sure, sure. And I'm sorry, to hear that. That's unfortunate. It's you know, when I look back, and this may sound a little morbid. Um, I know it sounds morbid when I think about it because I think about it quite often. Uh, Me training now in my life, I don't know that it would ever happen. With my two buddies, had they not passed away. As fucked up as that may sound, it's like we get into many different adventures, and I don't think at any point during that time jiu-jitsu was ever a thought in my mind to even consider. So it'd be interesting to see, had they lived, would I've picked up training? Where would I be? You know, so when we have those moments where it's like, maybe if our friends did this, maybe this would have made a difference. We want to believe that. We want to hope that that's the case. Um, I do feel sometimes, like you said, he wanted to get into it, he just never got around to it. It's almost a matter of, what's most important. And with not having a lot of time, having kids and everything, that is kind of your priority. And on Instagram, you'll see Mr. Jiu-Jitsu's Instagram account. It'll say things like, if you know, make time for training, make time for, stuff like that. And, it kind of strengthens the foundation of everything else, family, relationships, things like that. Uh, so you'd like to think that maybe had he, gotten into training, that would help it. But unfortunately, sometimes, like we said, this isn't necessarily the answer for everyone. And we still end up, succumbing to, some issues one way or the other. Hopefully not, but jiu-jitsu is not perfect. Martial arts isn't perfect, but we definitely like to think that hopefully it could help someone down the road.
yeah, I think the idea of martial arts, it generally is kind of a better, it's like a self-empowerment thing. Like we want to help each other while helping ourselves get better, and it's like a growth kind of thing. But you could definitely also go to the wrong kind of gym. Like
True.
I'm really glad that everybody at my jujitsu gym is the kind that's like, we'll help you out. We're gonna be friends and be gentle and get better together. Because the boxing gym that I went to, like there was no flow rolling or light sparring. Like every time you sparred, somebody was trying to knock out the other person, and the coach was all for it. Like knock them out because we're all competing. So, and I was young. I was like 13. I didn't know that that wasn't normal, and I was doing pretty good at it. So I didn't really mind that being the case because most of the time I wasn't on the canvas until I remember after after about 1 year of competing in boxing, my grade in math class went from a 98 in geometry to a 64 in the span of like a semester. And I remember looking at the paper and going, I know how to do this. I just don't know how to do it. Like I think I was perpetually concussed for like a year, and then was like, yeah, maybe this isn't like the thing for me. I'm probably not going to make any money at this at any point, and I feel like I'm just getting dumb. So it might have been different if it was one of the, for fitness kind of gyms, but it was, you can go to the empowering ones and you can go to the grimy ones, and you don't know until you're there how the vibe is going to be.
Yeah, when you think about a good atmosphere, gym atmosphere versus a bad gym atmosphere. I just spoke to someone on the podcast recently, and also I spoke to someone else not on the podcast just yet. They both have spoken about going to a Muay Thai gym where, and this is early on for them. They were sparring and got hit full on pretty hard. And it's like, I know at my gym, you have to earn the right to spar, like by, you know, showing, proficient understanding of the sports and skill. So it's like, oh, y'all are just letting like newbies coming in and get clocked like that. Like, but those gyms exist. Those toxic gyms exist where it's like, you know, just go out there and grind. Go and again, I'm not trying to say being a hard worker is a bad thing. No, it's absolutely good to be a hard worker, but there is a level of responsibility that comes when you have fighters. It's like toys. You don't want to break your toys, because you break your toys, you don't have toys to play with later on. That's the same thing with teammates, training partners. If you're out there and you're sparring and you're knocking each other silly, it's like eventually you're going to run out of people to knock silly, or you're going to have teammates coming in there concussed forever, and that's in the long run especially not good, as we're learning more and more about CTE and the later effects of that. So I'm glad you're able to again kind of make that adjustment and say, I need to get the hell out of here, because this shit might get really really bad really really fast.
Yeah. And everyone does it for a different reason. Like I was competing for boxing, and one of the other kids was competing. A couple other people were just there as like hobbyists. They just wanted to, or some people were there to learn some form of self-defense, or just a different way of getting physically fit that wasn't just like grinding over weights. They were just, so when you have like competitors and hobbyists and stuff like that in the same place, and you're all treating them like, live or die competitors, that's not fun for the hobbyist, because now he's like, I just want to like hit the bag. I never actually want to do any of this. So
Yeah.
um, having that kind of atmosphere isn't great for everybody.
Yeah, it's some folks don't want to get hit. I don't want to get hit. I'm gonna be straight up about that shit right now. I tried Muay Thai for a week. I was like, fuck
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
we weren't sparring, we weren't hitting each other, but we were like, like the kick shows and stuff. And something happened. I ended up clanking shins with somebody, and I was like, nope.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I see some of that too, and I would love to learn it, but again, I've I've skateboarded enough. I've been hitting the shins with stuff, and I'm like, dude, this hurts.
Yeah.
I don't want. It's it's fun, and it would be cool, like to know that you know you can do that. But again, I'm a grown up now. I'm 26. I got to go to work every day. I don't want to be
Mhm.
waking up in the morning to go wire a house and have my shins blown to pieces. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's the thing about doing these things. It's like, yes, they're hobbies. For some, it might be further, might be more, but at the end of the day, you got to think, well, what am I doing away from here? Like right now, my shoulder is all types of jacked. But I don't even know how my shoulder got messed up. That's the true mystery to me. I went in the train one day and I came home. I was like, huh, my shoulder feels funky. I didn't get caught in any submissions or anything. I didn't resist anything. It was a relatively light day. And my shoulder, this has been going on for a while, long enough for me to probably go see a doctor. but I still think I'm in my 20s. Like, oh, he'll be fine tomorrow. It's not. It's never fine tomorrow. So, but hey, we. I feel like the universe put a lot of us in jiu-jitsu for a reason because they're like, look, maybe getting hit in the shin isn't meant for you. Maybe you know catching the elbow to the face intentionally is not for you because in jiu-jitsu we do catch elbows, or at least I do, and I've kicked as a spazzy white belt myself. I've kicked a teammate directly in the eye, like or need her in the eye, trying
Oh,
to go for a knee bar from half guard. Like I tried to spin, but I didn't kick my leg overhead and come around to a knee bar, but I didn't remember to like put my hand on her shoulder to kind of keep her down. So as I went to throw my knee over, she sat up, thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna just sit up into an underhook," and it all went very wrong. My knee hit her in the eye. She yelled out in like extreme pain, and I like crawled over like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! I think I just killed her." And she had graduation coming up, so she had a black eye going to graduation. So, but hey, from that point on, we became really good friends and trained together all the time. So, but the moral of the story is, my bad.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's always kind of funny when like someone accidentally bumps you, and then for me, yeah, this happens to me all the time. I get bumped in the head a lot, and I don't even notice it sometimes. Um, but like, I'll know I'll get hit, but it's not one of the ones where it's like, "Ooh, ow!" It's just kind of like, "Oh, that hurt a little bit," and then the other person goes, "Oh my god, you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And they go, "Okay, cool." Tap tap, like keep going, because to be like aware like that and concerned about hurting your partners, that's cool. And when we do have some like hard sparring, like when people are gonna be doing a competition, but it's voluntary. They'll
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I'm training for a competition. Do you want to like go for real?" Or somebody says, "Hey, I'm kind of sore." Like for me, when I do go back after um having my injury for a while, I'm pretty much just gonna be able to flow roll for a while. And we were all kind of at the same level, but at this point, I missed about 12 classes because we have 4 a week,
Mm,
and so I'm gonna feel way out of the loop, and I need to catch up. That's why I still go to watch what they're doing, but
sure.
it's hard to learn it without actually doing the move yourself, because you know you get like the muscle memory at that point.
Sure. Sure. Do you take video or do you just write notes?
I just watch. I don't no, I don't videotape it or take notes, but I have a pretty decent memory.
So I do not, which is why I have to take video of most things. I tend to take video and then I write notes off of the video that I took just to make sure that, because as I handwrite it out, I'm forced to remember it because I'm writing a step by step in super detail. So uh, and granted, it still doesn't match up to the fact that you need to physically do it. I think that's probably most important.
Right.
Personally, I'm a kinetic learner, so I have to physically do it. But I do know for me, it has been beneficial writing stuff over the last couple years. Well, I'd say that, but then if you see me on the mat, it's like, doesn't look like that's just been helping you at all. Fucking suck, dude. It's like, no, trust me, I was much worse. Um, but like, as far as your injury, is there any ideal on timetable how long you might be out?
Um, he wasn't very specific. He said at least a couple of weeks. I have a follow-up appointment with him tomorrow at 3:30, and um I haven't been out of work or anything. I don't have to get surgery.
Good.
He basically said, as far as fracturing your spine goes, this is like the way you want it to happen, because it's technically there, but it's not as significant as, you know, some other things. He just said no heavy lifting, no twisting. Uh, come see me once a week to have like checkups and stuff, and then so I still go to work. I still do a couple other things, but I'm not supposed to twist or fall, and that happens a lot. so, um, so yeah, I should be back on the mats pretty soon. I'm gonna beg him tomorrow about getting back there, but
I would say in
at least to flow. At least to flow. I'm not trying to like go hard because
that's tricky though, because sometimes you got to like, all right, I'm just gonna flow, and 40% turns to 50%, 50 turns
yeah.
to 60, and 60 turns to 80, and then the next thing you know, it's like, I got him in the twister. Like, what?
Oh, there's
Why?
no twisters allowed in my gym. Somebody already, we had a guest purple belt come in, and he was from a different gym, and when you get to like people expect the white belts to be spazzy, right? And then blue belts, you're getting your stuff put together a little bit more. By purple, you should know there's stuff that you're not supposed to do. If the white belts aren't allowed to knee bar each other, you shouldn't be able to knee bar them. Like kind
True.
of kind of stuff like that. And he was not very gentle either. I feel like this guy must have came from one of those toxic gyms that was like, you know,
Yeah.
subamo, and he put one of our guys in a twister, and that guy had to go to the hospital.
Ew.
So, and I have never seen my coach more mad than that. That was terrifying. He threw the guy right out and said, "You're not allowed to come back. You're never coming back here. We don't do that here.
I
I
mean,
told you. I told you no twisters, no knee bars. You're grappling a bunch of white belts. A lot of them way less than you too. So you don't need to be putting anyone in a twister."
I feel like as a guest, you don't go into a gym trying to flex,
I think that's what he wanted to do. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna come in here and show everybody how much better I am than them." And then we're like, "No, you're not allowed to come here anymore."
I went to visit a friend's gym up in Virginia, and um, I went in two different gyms. One gym I went in was just kind of like super casual, very friendly with everyone. Everyone was very friendly with me, and um, I was trying to light roll. A couple of guys went a little harder at me, but that was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, you're gonna go this intensity, I'm gonna ramp it up just a little bit too, so that way we kind of match. But there's kind of a unspoken mutual agreement there that we knew this is where we're going, but at no point did we, were we trying to crank any submissions. This one gym particularly, they work a lot with leg locks, so there were some ankle locks being thrown, and I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. I wasn't throwing them back, but I was definitely defending. But, from my perspective as a guest coming into their gym, it's like, okay, whatever's whatever. But I wouldn't go to their gym and like, all right, I'm throwing ankle locks and heel hooks, and let's go for a couple toes while we're at it. No, as a guest, I'm just there to kind of get a workout in. I went
Yeah.
to another friend's gym also in Virginia, and just again, very, very casual. They, like, to be honest, they all wiped the mats up with me. I was like, dude, like, and they weren't mean or aggressive about it. It was like this was like very, very technical, very, very skilled. And it was like, oh wow, I'm being outmatched here. Huh. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh
Do
man.
I turn it up, or do I just, I just kept it super casual and let them work. I think the one friend that I was invited there through, they wanted me to roll with their son. I was like, I'm watching him just run through people. I was like, I will. I don't want to, but I will. And we just never got around to it. But the few of the purple and brown belts beat my ass, and I was like, okay, thanks, guys. I Appreciate it. And they've moved gyms since. I do want to go out and visit the new gym. I just have to uh repair my ego. I'm like, look, man, you aren't the little kid in the gym. You know, you're the adults. Go in there and show them. But as a visitor, you always want to, just take care of, be a good guest. Period.
Yeah.
You want to be a jerk. So, oh well. But I think that is a good rule, though. No twisters. Period. I don't know. We necessarily have a rule of no twisters. I just don't think anyone's shooting for twisters. A buddy of mine, he and I will roll, and every so often he'll like hint towards it, like he'll get like my legs kind of contorted, and then he'll take my arm and throw it over his shoulder or over his neck, and I'll say, don't you fucking
Don't do it. Come on, man.
and,
Thought we were friends.
like anytime like we're rolling, he'll get my like we'll get it 50-50, and he'll like we're in a gi. We don't Our rule is no heel hooks in the gi. He'll get me like as he's there.
He'll get you
Yeah, like
positionally and then just
yeah.
won't like yeah. And
But there's a
like
couple times.
that's
Yeah,
fine. We
yeah.
do stuff like that too where it's like, you know, it, if you know you have it, there's almost no point in like actually doing it, especially, what we like to do a lot of the time, especially me and my one of my favorite training partners is we'll like get someone into an armbar, but let them learn like use the escape to get out, and then it's like a dog fight to get the position, but then you let them practice their escape, and it's like a volley. You just kind of keep it going.
Joe, it's been good having you on here, and just hearing your story, and hearing how you've actually fought through a lot of stuff, and I'm glad that you've had the self-awareness and the strength to just kind of get to where you are right now, despite injuries and everything plaguing you at the moment. So definitely glad we were able to finally get together and make this happen. I love to have you back on, and just dig further, into your story, and just really talk, and just kind of the next episode just really like loosen up, like let's just, this is a party, like no safety nets. We just gonna get silly. But before we get out of here, you got any shout outs or mentions that you'd like to throw out there for us?
I guess I'd like to shout out Nomad Grappling Club. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And shout out Jake Dante. And thank you a lot for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm a big fan of getting silly. So if I am back on the back on the show, uh, we don't always have to. I wanted to let my story be told about the sad times, but I'm all for just getting goofy, and I think that'd be a lot of fun.
No, absolutely. I honestly think in order to get to the silly and get to the goofy, you do have to let the showdown be vulnerable, and share the hard parts too. So it's not all rainbows here, y'all. Sometimes, we do have some hardships to share as well. So thank you for doing that, though, because, for this being your first time doing the podcast and really opening up like that, I think that's huge, and, much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great
Absolutely.
host.
Well, thank you. Great guess. I mean, through the technical difficulties and everything, you've been a trooper. So thank you for that. Um, Before we get out of here, as always, all y'all listening, thank you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, topics, want to be a guest, anything, reach out to me. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram, or Off the Mats Podcast, also on Instagram, or you can email offthemats2020@gmail.com. Yeah, that sounds right. Try it. If I respond, then it's right. If I don't, then it's probably not right, or I think you're a scammer. You're trying to steal tons of my dollars, which I don't have a lot of. Uh, I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio. Bobby, Chris, Joe, Marilyn, Phil, Ricky, Tiki. If y'all been listening, y'all know the crew. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing podcasts. So, always want to, shout them out. And also, I was just recently on a couple episodes over there. I went back home and recorded with my buddies. So go check it out. It's a fun time over there. We get silly, really silly. I also want to give a shout out to my other podcast, So You Like Horror. If you're into scary movies and things like that, go check that out too. We've been doing horror through the decades and we've completed it. We wrapped it all up. Now we're going into 2024 and we're going to be toying with some new themes, possibly Final Girls or cursed films. We don't know. We're going to get together with the crew and talk about it in a couple weeks. So, but otherwise, go check it out. So You Like Horror. It's also on Instagram. All the words are separated by underscores. Go listen. It'll be fun. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out here to my guest, Mr. Joe Donovan. Thank you again for sharing your story. Thank you for making the time. And I'm looking forward to having you back on as a guest and really getting into the weeds of just, again, being silly, having a good time, getting the just cut loose. But outside of that, as always, thank you, everyone. I love you guys. Sometimes I wonder, should I be doing a podcast? And then when I see people listen, it's like, oh, I guess they think I should be doing it. So if you think I shouldn't be doing it, keep that shit to yourself. Like negative vibes, stay away from me. But otherwise, thank you, everyone. I love you to death. You guys keep listening, and we're gonna always keep making these shows. Thank you so much, everybody, and goodbye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.